I'd like to call the Monday, February 22nd meeting of the Planning Commission to order. If everybody would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome to everybody this evening. I'll run through tonight's agenda before we get started. First item on the agenda would be the consent agenda. Second item will be a public hearing for the rezoning of Asset Automotive. Third item will be another public hearing for the rezoning of the former U.S. Post Office at 200 Northwest 11th Street. Item 4 will be a final plat for Parkway Estates. Item 5 will be a preliminary plat for Quick Trip. 6, a master alternative sign plan for Coronado Center. 7 will be a master alternative sign plan for Andy's Frozen Custard. And then we'll have the CDBG Advisory Committee vote, and then other business and adjournment. So with that, I will refresh everybody on the procedure for a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing, call for exhibits from the city attorney, ask for staff comments. Comments from the applicant will make their presentation. Witnesses in favor will be asked if they'd like to speak. Witnesses opposed will be able to speak. Then we'll have general questions and discussion among the commissioners, and then I'll close the public hearing and we will consider it for a recommendation. So with that, item number 1 is the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Peel.
I move that the minutes from the February 8th Planning Commission be approved as submitted.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Haney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So with that, second item on the agenda is the public hearing for rezoning of RZ-01-16-5171 Asset Automotive. I will open the public hearing and ask for exhibits from the city attorney.
Thank you. This time the city has 8 exhibits. Exhibit 1, the staff report with attachments. Exhibit 2, the affidavit of publication in the Examiner on February 6, 2016. Exhibit 3 is the application with attachments. Exhibit 4 is a 185-foot notification map. Exhibit 5 are the names and addresses of property owners within that 185 feet of the site. Exhibit 6 is the copy of the letter sent to the property owners. Exhibit 7 is Title 4 Land Use section of the Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And Exhibit 8 is the 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference. Those are the city's exhibits.
Thank you very much. Mr. Allen, you're going to give the staff presentation?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. Again, before you this evening is a request to change zoning from GB General Business to RC Regional Commercial at 2450 Northwest South Outer Road. The applicant is Asset Automotive. They are present here tonight. Should you have any questions? The property is just under 2 acres in size. It is immediately west of what is now Target Time indoor shooting range, formerly All-America Fitness, and again located on the south side of Northwest South Outer Road in the I-70 corridor. Again, the proposal is to rezone from GB to RC, which is fairly consistent with the rest of the properties along this portion of South Outer Road, as you can see here. Red being GB, RC being the pink. And you can see more of the RC is starting to fill in as this is a regional commercial type corridor along I-70, both north and south sides. Eventually, it's an unimproved, vacant property currently, as you can see here. Site is again just short of 2 acres in size, and eventually the applicant looks to open a business on the site that would include vehicle sales, which the UDC calls outdoor sales and service equipment, and vehicle maintenance, which UDC calls vehicle repair limited. So that's the current proposal in draft form. As you see by the staff report, we did show kind of all the proposed, show that here too as well. And many thanks to Nathan Jury, our planning technician, who put the staff report together. I'll kind of scroll down here. You can see the table with RC zoning should be recommended for approval and then approved by the City Council at their March 7th meeting, you can see the different uses that would be permitted in the RC zoning as described here. The vehicle repair limited and the outdoor sales and service equipment, as you can see with that open square, means it's conditional use. So should they come forward, should this be approved, they will need to come back to request a conditional use permit and site plan design review, things of that sort at that time. So with that, staff is recommending approval as submitted, as it is consistent with review criteria in the UDC and the application as submitted. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Allen?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Peel.
notification letters, have they been returned?
Yes, 2.
And the results?
Well, they were just returned for non.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was for
fine.
quality service of KC and Adams, William Adams.
Karen, can you turn your microphone on?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Quality service of KC and Adams, William Adams, trustee.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good question, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Peel, yeah, there is some residential two-family zone property immediately to the south there, as you can see in the zoning map. But again, staff has not received any comments, positive or negative, up to this point.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Allen.
All right, seeing none,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you.
Alan.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to come forward and make a presentation?
Happy to. I don't really have...
You need to come forward. You'll have to be sworn in and state your name and your address, please.
Raise your hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give this case will be the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name, my name's Richard Colson. My home address is 3000 West 83rd Terrace, Leawood, Kansas, 66206. I'm here with my business partner, Tim Banner. We are the owners of Asset Automotive and have been since 2005. We currently have a business in Blue Springs on 40 Highway, but we feel like this move would be a good situation for the city. We're planning a fairly nice development, and we believe it would increase our sales and would try to build something that we can all be proud of.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Colson?
Mr. Colson?
Commissioner Peel? Yes.
Were you aware that there was a rezoning that for a property that is northwest that had, I think their preliminary lead was that they were going to do automotive repair and things like that? Were you aware of that rezoning request, or which was approved, I believe?
Which property would that be?
Right here. This area right there.
On the other, in between the frontage road and I-70.
Yeah.
I was not aware.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could interject.
Yes,
you know,
Mr. Allen.
Yes, they did request a rezoning to the RC, again, which is consistent with this corridor area. But again, they've not submitted any additional applications to this point in terms of what their proposal would be. I know they're looking at more of a kind of vehicle sales in terms of equipment sales, not necessarily actual vehicles for sale, but related items. So I believe Mr. Colson is more of a traditional car sales, vehicle sales.
Correct.
Than just parts and equipment, which I think is what you recall was presented here with that property across the street.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Colson, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Colson?
Oh, I have one more question.
Sure.
Sorry.
Commissioner Peel?
Mr. Chairman, have you applied for a conditional use permit, or is that to follow?
Yes. Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I figured that. it may follow this.
I have made an application for a conditional use permit. It will, assuming this recommendation is acted upon favorably, you will be reviewing it March 14th.
Okay, great. Thank you,
So-
Mr. Colson.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Allen?
Sorry, it was Mr. Chairman, along with that as well, as I mentioned that, Mr. Colson mentioned that there will be the conditional use permit coming forward, but there will be the site plan design review subsequent to that once they have the building plans, the site plan itself laid out, so.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Colson.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor in the audience? Seeing none, is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, is there any other comments, questions, general discussion among the commissioners for the record? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peel.
I move and recommend that we approve rezoning request 01-16-5171 for Asset Automotive LLC from GB to RC.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Duhan. This will be a roll call vote.
Planning Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
Commissioner Haney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bartolotta.
Aye.
Commissioner Peel.
Aye.
Commissioner Billups.
Aye.
Commissioner Cradoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Duhan.
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace.
Aye.
Chairman Graham.
Aye. Motion carries. Our recommendation will be sent to City Council. Their next meeting is March 7th at 6 o'clock. So thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 3, which will be a public hearing for the rezoning of the old post office, 200 Northwest 11th Street, which is RZ-01-165154. I'll open the public hearing and call for exhibits from our city attorney.
Thank you. The city has 9 exhibits. Exhibit 1 is a staff report with attachments. Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication in the Blue Springs Examiner on February 6, 2016. Exhibit 3 is the application with attachments. Exhibit 4 is the 185-foot notification map. Exhibit 5 is name and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. Exhibit 6 is a copy of the letter sent to the property owners. Exhibit 7 is a letter from David Rouse, real estate specialist, dated February 12, 2016. Exhibit 8 is Title 4 Land Use Section, Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And Exhibit 9 is the 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference. Those are the city's exhibits.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hawley, would you like to make the presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The current proposal is to rezone the subject property, which is the former post office property downtown, from general business and light industrial to the T5 Urban Center Zone, which is part of the Downtown Development Code. The site consists of approximately 2.4 acres, and as you can see on the overhead, it is located north of Main Street between 10th and 11th Street. This particular property, it was not included in the downtown rezoning back in 2007 because the U.S. Post Service was expected to be a long-term property owner, and they weren't all that interested in seeing it rezoned, and there wasn't a need to rezone it as long as it was a post office. However, now that their post office has left that facility and moved to their South Avenue facility, they are considering selling the property, and they do understand that as the property sells, it makes sense and will likely need to be rezoned to the Downtown Development Code. T5 is the zone that we are recommending. Really, it's as straightforward as that. The only other item you can see in the staff report that is just a bit unusual on this one is that the Postal Service has said that they understand the need to rezone the property. However, they would prefer that not occur until the closing on the property. So what they requested is that we allow 180 days for them to be able to close on the property, after which then the zoning would take effect. The City Council will deal with that in the ordinance that they pass, and with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Hawley?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peel?
notification letters, has anything been returned?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, Mr. Hawley, I was interested that there's an entity that has put interest in this property. I was kind of curious that it was the city that is making the rezoning request instead of the Ronan Development LLC.
It is a little interesting that the city pursued the zoning request a little bit different than what you typically see, but it's the city's desire more than any to see this rezoned into the Downtown Development Code area. So for those reasons, and the city has decided to initiate the rezoning.
Yeah, no, I thought that too, so thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, Mr. Hawley.
Any other questions? Commissioner Phillips?
Mr. Hawley? Can you, with this rezoning, is it going to change any of the improvements or anything that would be required with the new tenant and the new usage and everything?
No, it will not.
It's not going to create any improvements or?
Well, the new tenant that is proposing to move in there does propose to do some improvements to the property, but this rezoning doesn't initiate any of those improvements. It's through their development plan that would occur.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing none, is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, I would bring it back up here for questions, comments, discussion on the record. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peel.
I move that rezoning request RZ01-16-5154 for 200 Northwest 11th, GB to T5 rezone be approved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Cradoff. All those in, this will be a roll call vote, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Planning Commissioner Haney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bartolotta.
Aye.
Commissioner Peel.
Aye.
Commissioner Billups.
Aye.
Commissioner Cradoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Duhan.
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace.
Aye.
Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
Chairman Graham.
Aye. Motion carries. That recommendation will be sent to the March 7th City Council meeting as well. Item 4 is a final plat for Parkway Estates, and Matt is going to make that presentation for us this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Before you is a request for a final plat for Parkway Estates PRO 25th plat. This final plat covers approximately 1.8 acres and includes 7 lots at the northwest and southwest corners of Southeast Monterey Drive and Southeast Scarlet Court. All required infrastructure improvements have been completed in earlier phases. As you can see in this the aerial here, the streets were already installed at the time of platting at the end of the cul-de-sacs, but the applicant is coming back and subdividing or final platting the end of the cul-de-sacs off of Monterey Drive. The applicant has done a couple of those in the last year, usually 5 to 7 lots at a time. They're just about completed. There will be one more final plat of 6 lots at Southeast Auburn Court before they move further up to the north. All 7 lots will have a minimum floor area classification of Class G, which requires a minimum of 1,400 square foot homes. That is consistent with adjacent lots to the north, south, and west. And the applicant has provided an amended copy of the conditions, restrictions, and covenants that will include all the new lots. And sidewalk sections will be installed when each lot is developed. Staff does recommend approval of the final plat with 3 conditions. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? All right, doesn't seem to be any. Mr. Salee, would you like to make a presentation? If you could state your name for us and address, please.
Alrighty. My name is Randy Salee, RL Salee Real Estate Investments. I believe is the owner of this company. We build under Salee Homes Incorporated. Address 3730 Northeast Troon Drive, Lee Summit, Missouri 64064. And this is just a continuation of Parkway Estates. I think, eventually have one more street to the north, southeast Auburn Court, which we have not opened up yet. But this will be a continuation of Scarlet Court and allow us to continue building from west to east, and fairly the homes will be consistent with what's out there now. It's which this side of the street allows for mostly small ranch style or two-story homes, two-car garage, and we have samples of that are being built out there right now. I'd be happy to answer any questions for any of the Planning Commission.
Any questions for Mr. Salee? Commissioner Billups?
I don't really have a question. I just would like to make a comment that I appreciate the work that's going on out there, and I'm really glad to see it's finally happening.
We are too. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Salee? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions, motions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peel?
I move that final plat PF 02-16-5189 with the 3 conditions for Parkway Estates be approved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Billups. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That recommendation will be sent to the City Council for their March 7th meeting as well. Next item on the agenda is a preliminary plat for Quick Trip, store number 217. And Mr. Wright is going to make that presentation as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is a request for an amended preliminary plat for Quick Trip store number 217R, which is located at the northwest corner of Southwest 7 and Southwest 40 highways. The original preliminary plat was approved in November 2015. And the only change with this amended preliminary plat is the addition of note 3 on the second sheet. Let me see if I can zoom in close enough where everybody can read. It's on the wrong sheet. So note 3 states that private ingress-egress easement is subject to being shifted or moved. The original preliminary plat did indicate that there's a 20-foot ingress. Highlight that for you. There's an 20-foot ingress-egress easement here on the property that provides access, potential access to Fike's property here to the north of the site. Quick Trip the original preliminary plat indicated that that easement would be vacated or dissolved. However, Quick Trip is currently working with Fike, which owns the property to the north, on maintaining an ingress-egress easement somewhere through the site for possible future 40 highway access. Because the location has not yet been agreed to, the new note will allow more flexibility in that location. The original preliminary plat was approved with 16 conditions. Staff is recommending 19 conditions on the amended preliminary plat. The 3 new conditions are conditions number 7 through 9, which relate to transportation infrastructure now required after revisions to the traffic study. Condition number 6 has also been updated to reflect the requirement of dual left turn lanes from eastbound 40 highway to northbound 7 highway. And then staff is recommending to revise condition number 3 per the handout that has been provided to you. And after additional discussion last week, there were some concerns with future traffic conditions at the full access intersection, which let me pull that up for you. So that would be this access here. That would be a full access at 40 highway. The additional discussion was what would happen with the full access In the future, if the additional lots to the west, north, and Lot 1, where the former Ponderosa Steakhouse is, what would happen with that access if those lots were redeveloped, and particularly related to the front access drive here that has access, that provides Quick Trip that full access. And so for this reason, staff is recommending that the 34-foot access drive through Lot 1 be a temporary access drive, which may be required to be relocated in the future. Page 2 of the handout memo provides a recent example of a similar situation at Northeast Coronado Drive and Northeast Adams Dairy Road intersection, which is in front of Home Depot and Olive Garden. An access drive was constructed adjacent to Northeast Coronado to provide access from the Coronado Place Retail Center, which contains Panera and Adams Dairy Bank, to the full access intersection at Northeast Adams Dairy Road, which is just to the west of the Olive Garden site. This access was removed when the Sleep Number and AT&T retail building was developed. Access is still provided, but it now loops around the building, which eliminates access drives too close to the signalized intersection. Page 3 shows a possible future scenario for Quick Trip's access drive. The location of the access drive will depend on how Lot 1 and or adjacent sites redevelop, but the goal is to maintain enough vehicle stacking space at the full access to keep traffic moving safely and effectively. Staff does recommend approval of the amended preliminary plat subject to 19 conditions, including a revision of condition number 3, which would read, cross-accesses shall be shown on the final plat as temporary cross-access easements across all of Lot 1 until such time as Lot 1 is developed or MoDOT requires or conditions warrant a traffic signal at the full access point for Lot 1 on 40 Highway. And the permanent location of any easements as approved by the Director of Public Works may be determined. The location of any driveways for use as a temporary access easement shall be approved by the Director of Public Works and take into consideration, among other factors, safety and traffic congestion that may arise at the full access driveway to 40 Highway on Lot 1. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on that.
Any questions for Mr. Wright? Commissioner Phillips?
So with this change in condition 3, we're not actually saying the access must go around the rear of the site. We're saying that's a possibility. Is that correct?
Yes, that's a possibility dependent on future development on the adjacent parcels and what kind of traffic impacts that would create at the full access point.
So, okay, good. I just want to make sure we're not limiting the opportunities for development on that by creating a rear loop or something like that nobody can then develop the property. So as long as they have the proper clearance
they need
to get into the access or to get to the entrance.
Yeah, they need to have the proper stacking distance. The concern is if there's drives coming this way or coming that way, what you create here is an additional traffic congestion, which is if cars are coming out of here trying to go out of Quick Trip and there's cars entering 40 Highway, they can't effectively turn left at that intersection to get out of the site. So that's the main concern.
Yeah, I just don't want to limit the possibilities of Lot 1 being redeveloped, so that's...
Yeah, there's several different options as far as how the access drive could be shifted to accommodate the development of Lot 1 and still effectively create safe access there at that full access point.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace?
This is just for my own good. I have full access is defined as what when you say full access?
You can have both left in and right out. So vehicles they're exiting Quick Trip, they can come out and turn left onto 40 Highway, or they can turn right, and vice versa. If you're coming down 40 Highway, you can also turn in to the site.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward and make a presentation? If you could state your name and address for us, please.
Andrew Smith, 5725 Fox Ridge Drive, Mission, Kansas. Last time that I was here, I took you guys through our entire project, but I think this is trip number 3, so I'll spare you the details quite as much for this one. I will just speak to a few of the conditions. There is a condition about variance being approved. That has already been approved by the Board of Zoning Adjustments, so just to alleviate that concern. The condition number 9 about the Clark's tool access, we do have a depiction that we provide to MoDOT that they are okay with to align those drives properly with across the street and with the median break that ties because Clark's tool has one long frontage, and then we've got the access point that ties into it. All ties into one nice place now. MoDOT has approved that we are working on an agreement with Clark's tool currently. Additionally, there was concern about stacking at that intersection, about somebody coming in and trying to take a left to Clark's tool. One thing that our traffic engineer suggested, and MoDOT seemed to be okay with it as well, is a do not block intersection sign. So that will hopefully alleviate some of that concern. We are currently working on the access easement that runs through our site. We're trying to come to an agreement on that, where it can be relocated to. And then in regards to condition 3, just to alleviate some more concerns, the lot 1 and lot 3, we did factor in development in those lots when we performed our second traffic study, which showed the signal warrant during peak periods at the full access point. So that was accounted for. And this is not the most current layout. The access point, the full access point there lines up much better now instead of causing the congestion there. So with that, if there's any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
All right, any questions for Mr. Smith? Commissioner Craddock.
I noticed you haven't addressed that property as of yet. Have you decided whether or not you're going to close any of your other properties?
We're still kind of up in the air. As long as they're profitable, we'll try our best to keep them open. I would guess that at least one of them would shut down on 7, but that's really not my area. I'm really just in charge of the development. So it's still kind of up for discussion though.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Bill.
Commissioner Bellows.
I haven't got to say much today.
You haven't.
I would move for approval of preliminary plat PP 02165184 with the, what was it, 19?
Yes.
Staff recommendations, including the amended number 3.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Duhan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're welcome. Thank you. Item 6 is the master alternative sign plan for Coronado Center. And Mr. Jury is going to make that presentation for us this evening.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Before you have the Coronado Center's master sign plan. You have seen the preliminary plat, final plat, and the site plan design review for this piece of property in particular before. So it's located on the southeast corner of Coronado Drive and Sunnyside School Road, and it's bounded to the south by multifamily and to the east by Walmart. So the applicant is asking for a master sign plan because they're not allowed to have signage on the east side of the building according to code, since it's not facing a public street and it's not facing, or it's not on the facade that is the main entrance. The main entrance for the building is facing the south. So the east is the only direction, northeast, northwest, or south are all allowed to have signage, but the east is the only direction that is not allowed to have signage. So the applicant is requesting that the lot in question is 2.27 acres approximately, and it's zone GB, and it has an ADP overlay, Adams Dairy Parkway overlay. So with that, the Architectural Review Committee actually, since it's in the ADP zone overlay, they had to look at this and they had no comments on it, and they recommended approval for this sign plan in particular. Having said that, the applicant also provided the master sign plan for Building 1 and the potential Building 2, that they don't have plans yet in particular of how big it will be or anything, and so they have left a lot of those, the proposed sizes of signs on the wall, up to the discretion of when the building comes. It's still going to meet the 10% rule that is required by the city code. And so they're requesting 16 signs, and a lot of those signs are on Building 2 because they don't know how many tenants they're going to have at this moment. They know they're going to have 2 on Building 1, so there'll be 2 signs on the north and 2 signs on the south side of Building 1. But Building 2, since it's up in the air, they have left it open and given themselves some flexibility with this master sign plan. With that, it still meets all the size and measurement requirements, having maximums of what it can be, and it meets the sign code, with the exception of that eastern facade, having a sign on that. So having said that, staff recommends approval of the master sign plan with 2 conditions. If there's any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Jury? Doesn't look like it. Would the applicant like to come forward and make a comment? If you could give us your name and address, please.
All right. Jeff DeGasperi with DeGasperi Architects, 6240 West 135th in Overland Park, here representing Steve and Kathy Waldman, the owners of the property and the developers. As far as Nathan, I think, has covered it, and Nathan helped out a lot on working through the calculations, the way we set up are verifying how much area of sign can be on each side. We utilize the frontages for the calculation times, so it's the frontage times 2 because it's an office park. That sets our bottom line for the square footage of all signs on the north and the west side of the building. So with the east, we've absorbed that. We've made ours comply within that calculation, not asking for any more. So we're spreading that available area on 3 sides. And the reason we're wanting that east side, it's very visible. It feels like a public street because it's right along Walmart and they get a lot of traffic through there and a lot of visibility from the east side. So that was a fairly prominent facade for the owners and for Reese Nichols, which will be the first tenant in the building. They were really interested in having something on that side for the Walmart visitors. So appreciate your consideration. Are there any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. DeGasperi? Doesn't look like it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Billups.
I would move for approval of the alternate sign plan ASP 01165183 with the 2 staff recommendations.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Peel. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Master Alternative Sign Plan for Andy's Frozen Custard. And again, Mr. Jury is going to make that presentation for us.
So on this one, the staff has approved an administrative site plan design review with the new code. We are allowed to approve any building that's under 25,000 square feet. And so Andy's has already received that and had approval for that. They're located at 1000 Northwest 7 Highway at the location of the old gas station. That was also a liquor store after that, I believe, and is currently demolished if you've driven by it recently. So It's approximately 0.71 acres. It's a relatively small site, and they had to squeeze a lot in it to get through our administrative site plan design review. It's zoned general business, and it's in the I-70 corridor. So they do have an existing pole sign, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. There's the site, and it's just south of Applebee's, right along 7 Highway. To the east of it is the Mock Plaza, and McDonald's is to the south. We'll go through some of the requirements and some of the issues that the sign plan, or Andy's master sign plan has. And if you want to stay on page 7, and I'll scroll through some of the images, and if you can follow along, I guess that way, it might be a little bit simpler. So to start off, Andy's has a sign package, and there's 2 options that they're sort of looking at. Option 1, and I believe it's the preferred option for them, is to keep the existing pole sign, which they're allowed on the I-70 corridor, since it is existing, and they can change the face of the signs and keep it in that general figure. But they are asking for uplighting, a 3-dimensional object, the ice cream cone at the top, and a changeable copy as well. And staff's reservations for this option 1, or option A, is that the changeable copy, we have not allowed this in the past, ever since we adopted the sign code about 15 years ago. The reasoning behind that is that the sign code, when it is adopted, we are trying to encourage monument signs, and monument signs are allowed changeable copy, whereas pole signs we have not allowed changeable copy ever, since the sign code at least. And it's sort of our encouraging factor that pushes people to remove the pole sign and install the preferred monument sign. It's our one of our only encouraging factors, one of the carrots that we provide that does this. So if we did allow the changeable copy, staff is concerned that it would open a door, and other pole signs would be allowed to have changeable copy. That is a door that staff would rather not open up, I guess. So that's option A. The option B, if that is not desirable to Planning Commission. Option B is the monument sign, and it meets all the requirements except that it's set back only 10 feet, or it's only set back 2 feet from the property line, whereas the requirement for monument signs is 10 feet from the property line. In the past, we have allowed differentiations from that. So I believe down the street in a similar situation, Sheridan's Frozen Custard, we allowed them, when they're in business, to have a sign that was 5 feet setback from the property line. And so there's some leeway for Planning Commission to give some variance to that, but staff recommendation would not be to go any farther than the 5 feet that we have done in the past. One thing I forgot to mention on the pole sign was the uplighting is another thing that provides a more intense use of a pole sign than we usually allow in the past. And so that's one of the things that staff also recommends against. I believe that was it for the monument sign, besides the ice cream cone also being a 3-dimensional object. Going on to the elevations, Andy's has on this east elevation facing 7 Highway, they have some neon lights on the building along the roof line where it says drive-through. Then there's neon lights cutting across to the other side that says drive-through as well. On the south elevation, there's an ice cream cone that's also a 3-dimensional object, which can be allowed if Planning Commission desires any 3-dimensional object. And then there's the internally illuminated sign right next to it that says Andy's Frozen Custard. And all of this meets the measurement requirements for the sign on the facades. One of the catch points on this one, the smaller sign that's closer to the south, or to the east of the, right here, that one is actually a neon sign that's encased with polycarbonate. So according to our sign code, it's technically not allowed since it's an open-faced bulb, but it is encased in polycarbonate, and the applicant has shown that. And with the building also having neon signs or neon bulbing, it's not too out of the ordinary, I guess, for a sign to also have neon bulbing. The building is allowed lighting like neon bulbs, but for some reason signs aren't. So the Planning Commission could have some leeway to allow that as well. There's some menu posters on there too, and those aren't counted towards the total square footage of signage since they are menus. On the other side, it's on the north side, it's the exact mirror image of the south side, so don't need to go over that. And then the west elevation does not have any signage facing Mock Plaza. Here's some details of some of the neon bulbing on the building, the drive-through signs. Some up close and an existing photo of the 3-dimensional sign and the Andy's logo. Some existing photos of the neon lighting. Also, the informational signs, another small one that doesn't worry staff too much. Informational signs are only allowed to be 3 square feet in size, and can cover 40% of that can be covered by commercial messages. In this case, Andy's meets the 40% coverage if they're allowed to have the 6 square feet of signage, which this info sign in particular is 3 feet tall and 2 feet wide. Staff doesn't see a huge problem with that. We've allowed things like this in the past, so our Planning Commission has allowed things like this in the past. So it's not a big deal on that. The American flag is 96 square feet. I think the maximum allowed for flag size is 40 square feet. The Andy's sign is only 24 square feet in size, and that meets the requirements, but the American flag doesn't. But staff isn't too worried about the American flag being larger size than permitted. So that's not a big issue from staff's perspective either. Here's a picture of the menu board, which will be in the ordering area patio in the front of the building, in between the building and 7 Highway. Here's some of those posters along the north and south facades. And then there's the package of informational signs that all meet the required criteria for sign code. Everything else for the informational signs meets the sign code except for the exit only, do not enter. It's 4 square feet in size instead of the required or the maximum 3 square feet. Again, this is not a big deal from staff's perspective either. The applicant did provide us with a photometric plan, so all the lighting, the neon bulbing is not going to be an issue for glare. So that's one thing that the Planning Commission should also take into consideration. And there's a few pictures that I can go through if there are any questions. But staff recommends denial of the proposed plan. But we do have 2 options, option A and option B. Option A, approving the pole sign with 3 conditions. Option B also, or approving the monument sign with 3 conditions also. But option A would be to remove the changeable copy and the uplighting, and then also have the landscaping area around all freestanding signs. And then option B would be for the monument sign to be set back 5 feet instead of the proposed 2 feet. And also having freestanding signs be surrounded by landscaping. So with that, if there are any questions, or if you want me to scroll through some of the existing photos for the uplighting that Andy's has provided.
Any questions for Mr. Jury? Commissioner Duhan.
Mr. Chairman, I'm hearing a whole lot of signs here, and I'm wondering, are there any other properties along 7 Highway that has as many signs? Are we going to kind of overdo? Is it going to look cluttered? Kind of how are we comparing to what's already there?
I've done, I think, McDonald's on Northwest Woods Chapel. It's a little ways away, but it's the one that I can remember off the top of my head. I believe I have done 22 signs on that property, and that's on Northwest Woods Chapel Road, close to I-70 right there. And it doesn't seem like it's too much signage. A lot of the little signs, a lot of the informational signs add up quickly when you're putting them at all the crosswalks, all the handicap signage and like that. So it might seem like a lot, I guess, but it does meet the measurement or the total square footage of what they're allowed. So they're not asking for over that, I guess.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Jury? Commissioner Phillips.
Talk a little bit more about the uplighting on either sign. What material is the ice cream cone made out of? It seems to, when I first looked at this, the uplighting seemed kind of harsh to me. It looked like if it was something where it was internally lit rather than externally lit, it might be a little more.
Yeah, I talked to Andy's applicant, and they mentioned that it's 2 or 3 inches thick, I believe, and internally illuminating it is not an option with it being that thick.
So it was something that was discussed?
Yes. I mean, in order to be structurally sound enough to withstand winds and everything, it has to be rather thick material. And so being that thick, it can't be internally illuminated.
Commissioner Wall, I wasn't sure if Commissioner Phillips was done. He was pondering.
I'm done. I'm done for right now. I'm done.
Commissioner Wallace.
Sure, my question is in reference to that 2 foot from the property line. Where's the property line in relation to the sidewalk or to the edge of 7 Highway?
Oh, let me see if I can.
Am I just missing that somewhere?
So the property line runs right on this dash line that runs right there. The monument sign is right there, if you can see that.
Okay.
I sort of covered it up with my finger. But
One other question, is that cone gluten-free?
Is your mic on, Commissioner Wallace?
My mic is going to pick him up.
I was getting a signal. Any other questions for Mr. Jury?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Peel?
I have two questions, Mr. Journey. Number one is, if proposal B is selected, is the north facade to be approved as part of Part B as well?
Yes.
The chosen?
Yes. Yeah, we've allowed, and in fact, we just allowed someone to have the signs on a facade that's not normally allowed. So that's something that we have done in the past, and staff does not have a huge problem with it.
My second question, thank you for that. My second question would be the reason for denial as suggested or proposed. Is there a particular reason outstanding?
Yes, as proposed, I guess the changeable copy and the uplighting for the pole sign, and then the setback issue with the monument sign are the three holdups that staff has.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? I have to look down this this long table. Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Jury. Would the applicant like to come forward and make the presentation?
It's on the desktop.
It's on the desktop. This one?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Aaron King, Andy Strozen Custard, 338 North Boonville Avenue, Springfield, Missouri. Appreciate all of you taking the time to take a look at this case for us tonight. As Nathan said, this site was pretty tough to squeeze everything on, and I kind of want to jump through, before I deal with the specifics on the monument and the pylon, kind of show you some of the restrictions we were dealing with on the site. This is our landscape plan. On both the north and the south sides of our lot, we have a 50-foot cross-access easement. So that's 100 feet of that frontage that we lose, that we can really develop anything in right now. So that's why you see our building where it is, and our driveway and everything tight. If I can figure this out, I can maybe draw that for you. Yeah. How do you draw the line? No. Okay. Oh, use your finger to draw. Well, that's easier. There and roughly here. Our access easements that are already there on the site. So we're unable to do anything in those areas. So that pushed our building and all of our parking into this smaller area of the site, which left us, very little room to get our drive-through window will be on this side. So customers will circulate. Be on this side. So customers will circulate in, allow us to stack, come back out this way, and then all of our parking is here. And we also were trying to leave space within our parking field for customers to get out this way and this way. We found at some of our other locations where we've had kind of dead-end parking lot situation like that, things get really tight and it gets very congested for customers getting in and out. So trying to separate that drive-through access going out, allowing people other way to get out, led to the parking lot configuration you see, as well as dealing with MoDOT. There's an island that we're required to put along here so that people pulling in off of 7 would not be able to dump in to the parking lot through this lot or that access point there. They wanted us to force everybody around and in the parking lot the other direction. As Nathan also said, we're part of developing this with the new code that's been adopted. So I think maybe we had some different landscape requirements and things that were new that we worked with the city very closely on to meet. So you see that the site's pretty heavily landscaped. How do I delete that? Just clear. the site's very heavily landscaped. We don't have a lot of locations to put a monument sign. So I'd also like to say that the monument sign, option B, is our least favorite. Even though we could get changeable text on that, we don't believe we're going to get the visibility and benefit out of that based on where we need to place that sign in relation to the other landscaping and things that are going on the site. And I think in the package that you have, that monument shown on this side of the sidewalk, we're actually allowing for it to happen. It works better on this side if we were to do it at that point. But if we put that landscape or put that the monument sign there, the other restriction that we have this is our civil plan showing the grading of the site. What we just talked about was the monument sign potentially going here. And then we've got landscaped areas all around this and here. The contours you see there show the area that we had to deal with the stormwater. So that's got a little bit of a dip in our site all around there to collect the water and let that all do what it needs to do. So you can see we've got a flat spot really right here where that monument can sit. Everything else is graded down into a bowl, and then there's landscaping that's happening inside of that. So backing up to the landscape plan again. The monument here isn't going to get a lot of visibility on 7 this way by the time this landscape starts to fill in. And we'd have better visibility coming south on 7, but it's still, as I say, not the preferred option. We're also a little restricted, our standard monument that you see in your package. We can't get that 5 feet off that's being asked, and I don't even know that on the east side of things we can get the 3 foot of landscaping around it, so we need to compress that sign even further. So for those reasons, the monument sign really is not our preferred option. We just don't think it works well and gives us the visibility that we need for that sign. So our preference is to keep and utilize the existing pole sign that's there as we've shown it. Do understand the city's concern with the changeable text and having not allowed that to pass. But based on the constraints we have with the other, if we did a monument sign, we don't really feel that changeable text at that location is going to be much of a benefit to us, and this would be the best opportunity for us to have that changeable text and have it noticeable to the public. The cone and the lighting, we aren't able to internally eliminate that cone. It's a fiberglass resin cone, so it's pretty thick. And if we internally lit the thing, you're going to see all the fibers in the fiberglass. This is the cone we've used for 30 years with Andy's. I was up in Osage Beach over the weekend with my family, and that's our first location. That cone is still up there. So this is kind of the brand of Andy's that they've used over and over again, and we just have not developed an internally illuminated one for this kind of situation. So we really would respectfully request that you look at allowing that lighting to happen in some way. Lighting is not expressly prohibited in the code. It is, lighting of the signs is allowed. We believe that we're meeting the criteria that's been set forth in that. The light is up high. It's not going to be causing any problems with any traffic that's driving by. It's not going to illuminate anything other than the cone. And that sign gives us the best option for visibility along 7 and quite honestly from I-70. So for those reasons, we would respectfully request you approve the package and include the changeable text and the lighting for us. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about any of the other signs that are there as well.
Any questions for Mr. King? Mr. Billups?
Well, like I said, even the illustration you're showing right here, where you've got the night view, that lighting on the cone seems very harsh, like it's going to reflect back down into people's eyes and things like that. How reflective is that surface?
It's got a matte kind of finish on it. I mean, it's not terribly shiny. I'm trying to think of the location we have in Springfield. I don't feel like it reflects anything back down necessarily.
Because I'm thinking about driving by and I'm seeing this white glare up in the above, and it's going to be distracting.
It's not a glare look. I mean, it's recognizable as a cone. It's not, like there's this harsh light on it that diffuses everything. You can't tell what it is. I mean, it illuminates the cone, and unless you see that that's what it is. And we're, 35 feet to the top of this one. This actually, because we can get a taller cone, I think some of the examples you saw, the photos that you had are shorter location or shorter cones, shorter signs that are only maybe 20 feet, so those are down a little bit lower. This one's up higher. I really don't think that's going to be an issue. It isn't in any of our other locations where we've got that cone.
Any other questions for Mr. King?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Peel?
Mr. King, would you elaborate on the projections of 18 inches versus the 6 required?
As I said before, this is our standard cone. We have a variety. I think we have 4 different sizes of molds that are already made for this. So it is kind of what it is based on what we already have available to us to make, and to get a new mold and do all those sorts of things to get a shallower profile we haven't had to do before. Would be timely and costly to us. So it's a standard that we have.
Is this going to be a projection also on the wall, from a wall?
Yes. Yeah, the wall sign that you saw before on what we call the blade, which is the wall that goes up and we have the cones on each side. Yes, it's a cone. I can't remember which size cone, a 6-foot cone maybe, that is cut in half, or the mold has been cut in half. And so it's the 2 halves.
So I think that was a concern of staff too, that projection was beyond the standard requirement.
I think the limit was 6. I don't know if that was as big a concern for them as the pylon and monument signs were. But.
Okay.
Yeah, they're allowed to have it extend farther than 6 inches if Planning Commission allows it. So they do have to get Planning Commission approval in order to do that.
And I'm making an assumption here. I would assume that restriction will probably put in place at some point in places where you might have a projection and somebody walking by and walking into it. I don't know if that's the case. This one's up high. Nobody's going to be walking past that sign.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Attorney, thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Peel?
I would rather have a discussion between the commissioners if that's the procedural.
Sure. We can discuss and then...
Because I think we have 2 things going on here. We have an option A and option B, so I don't know whether the commissioners will be divided on which option, or maybe they'd rather do a denial. So from a procedure standpoint, should we decide which option that we're going to take in this, or whether it's going to be denied?
Whatever your pleasure.
Do. Because I myself would rather have option B with the monument sign, with no pole sign. And along with the projection, I think we ought to go back to a standard projection of 6 inches as proposed by staff, along with their other 3 conditions.
Okay.
I would like to elicit some feedback.
Other comments?
From the other commissioners.
Any other discussion, comments? Commissioner Billups? Thoughts?
I don't necessarily have a problem with the ice cream cone. I have a problem with it being lit the way it's lit. And even on the pole sign, I might like it to be a little bit smaller, but I don't necessarily have a problem. We've approved ice cream cones on buildings before. This is not something new for us. They were smaller, and there were 2 of them just on the corners of the buildings, but there's just something about the way it's lit that doesn't agree with me. I don't know how to explain it. And if we're going to do it on the pole sign, I think we need to stick to our guns as far as not allowing the changeable copy on a new pole sign. I understand the ice cream cone being an attraction to get people off the highway, especially at that height and that location. But nobody on the highway is going to be able to read the changeable copy, so that's not going to make any difference to that. So I would like to see the ice cream cone without it being lit somehow, or less lit. I don't know how that could be done, and no changeable copy on the pole sign. As far as the neon is concerned that they were talking about, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I think that fits into the style of the building. So.
Okay. Mr. Jury, in the photos, you didn't have any night photos, because I think this is more
there's
of
one,
a,
actually.
not a true photo, isn't that more of a representation? So I think it's making the light look a little more harsh than maybe it does in actuality.
That looks pretty harsh.
Okay. I was looking at the photo one, and it does look harsh on that, so that's why I wanted to bring that back.
Yeah, that looks pretty, I mean, you know, you've got very bright light and very dark shadows. And even 35 feet in the air, I think that would be distracting to
Do
some
you know
people.
how tall these are? I think those are 20 foot to the top, I believe. And the thing that sign doesn't really represent very well for us is the frozen custard, the red part. It's darker than it actually is there as well. So I think maybe these photos are, obviously I have my opinion for Andy's, but I think these photos aren't really representing as well as they could what it looks like. Because the Andes and the red and the yellow in that sign is a lot brighter than what you're seeing there. So I didn't take these photos. I think our sign vendor did.
Commissioner Wallace, comments?
There's a place out on 291. I'm not sure if it's an Andes or not.
That's an
There is. They've got ice cream cones like this. And the thing that bothers me about the monument sign is I'm afraid that that's pretty close, and that just the big ice cream cones there, that does grab your attention. And if it just gets a little bit, you hit the curb and up over the ice cream cone. So I kind of like the using the existing pole. I think that's probably a good idea, and that intersection up there, I don't think we're going to really hurt anything. It's pretty well lit in. So,
okay.
My opinion.
As a city, are we trying to eliminate pole signage?
We've been trying to do that for ever since the sign code came out.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Jurdy mentioned, since the sign code was approved back in 2000, that's been the approach of the sign code is to, through attrition and other methods, see the pole signs be reduced within the community with an approach for monument signs. And I think you've seen quite a bit of that. Not as much on 7 Highway, just because there's been less redevelopment occurring, but there have been certain cases up and down 7 where you've seen that. For example, southeast corner of 40 and 7, when Walmart moved out of there and Westlake came in, and within weeks they cut down that pole sign and put in the monument sign. That was just one example, kind of larger scale redevelopment as well along 7, but yeah, that's been the push with the sign code.
Have we made others who presented, like Culver's or something like that, who may have wanted a pole sign go to a monument sign?
I don't recall if Culver's specifically requested a pole sign.
That was just an example.
But they did, they at the time were looking at some electronic reader board opportunities with that monument sign, and that was before we made the change back in 2010 to allow what Mr. Jury was referencing in terms of changeable copy and electronic reader boards on monument signs. And again, as Mr. Jury mentioned as well, that's been kind of the carrot, kind of the encouragement to look at reducing some of the existing pole signs by allowing only on monument signs changeable copy and electronic reader boards. You saw the electronic reader board, for example, at CVS on Woods Chapel and Valley View there. Again, they came in without any request for pole sign, knowing full well they could have up to a third of their monument sign be electronic reader board. Point of Hope Church, the old 84 Lumber building, also came in with that monument sign with electronic reader boards. So yeah, we've seen fits and spurts of monument signs coming in, but again, being along I-70, as close as Andes is to I-70, it's certainly understandable to request and look at a pole sign in this location versus, for example, again, further south, the 40 and 7 location even.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Haney.
I like the idea of monument signs, but I think that's not a good location because 7 Highway, excuse me, so much traffic, and that's close to the intersection and dividing off, coming off, and people trying to look down. I think you're going to have a traffic issues greatly there. Maybe if there was more open space, more territory, but I can see somebody stopping in the middle of the lane trying to read, what a monument sign and, something. However, agree on the upright, but I think monument would not be a good thing for that point, at that location.
All right.
Yeah,
Commissioner Wallace.
One other comment, I think a readable sign at that location, whether it be on the pole or monuments, I feel like wouldn't be a good idea because you don't want somebody taking their mind off the traffic at that intersection and reading.
All right, thank you. Other comments, questions?
Have we thoroughly confused everyone now?
Mr. Chairman, so will the vote be on denial, or will the vote be on approval option A, or will the vote be approval on option B, or procedural, how is it going to happen?
It would be based on the motion that comes forward. If there's a motion for denial, we would consider denial.
Okay.
If someone wants to make a motion for option A, then we would be voting on option A or option B if that was, was the motion.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, then, do they bring the other ones up then? If one is, well, except for complete denial, then if option A, you don't have a quorum.
Then someone could make a second motion.
Option B is offered, right?
If one passes, the others die.
Oh, okay.
If the motion will be for option A and it passes, then it's option A. If option A would fail, then someone could come back and make a motion for option B and see how that one
Makes
fares.
sense. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, not to confuse it further.
Mr. Allen.
But certainly do not have to approve or deny option A as written. You can certainly add or remove any conditions that staff or the applicant have
Correct. You could
put forth as
motion
well.
could be
So there
made
could
with-
certainly be some modifications to both option A and B.
Exactly. Whoever is making the motion could remove conditions, add other conditions.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Phillips.
I would like to move for approval of option A as written, which removes the changeable copy sign and the uplighting on the pole sign.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wallace. Any discussion on the motion?
I want to make sure I heard that. No light and no editable text.
It would be as
That
the
would be
staff
correct.
conditions were proposed.
That's as it's proposed. No uplight on the cone and no changeable copy.
Everybody clear on the motion?
So Commissioner,
Craddock.
are you stating that the light would remain as it is, currently is, as we see it in the picture?
No, there would be no light on the cone.
At all?
Staff recommendation was no uplighting on the cone.
Okay.
Any other discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Sanders?
Aye.
Commissioner Haney?
Aye.
Commissioner Bartolotta?
Aye.
Commissioner Peel?
Nay.
Commissioner Billups?
Aye.
Commissioner Cradoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Duhan?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Am I missing? Commissioner Haney? Yes?
Yeah.
Chairman Grant?
No.
It has been passed.
Motion passes. Motion passed 7-2. Okay. And that was for option A with staff recommendations.
Yes.
All right.
As written.
as written.
So that brings us to the next item on the agenda is we need to vote for a representative to the CDBG Advisory Committee. Do you want to tell everybody what that would entail before someone jumps up and says they want to do it, Mr. Allen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's what I'm bringing up here for you. I apologize, I did not include a description in your packet, but the Mayor and City Council approved a new Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee. First time this year. We've been an entitlement city with CDBG HUD funds, that is, since 2006. And we've not really had any kind of internal discussion beyond just staff and then presenting options and ideas to the City Council. And we kind of looked at the CIP, Capital Improvements Program process, and how we had a review committee and how the committee has been good at kind of acting as a sounding board for some different projects, programs related to CIP and making recommendations to City Council. So kind of taking that same format here and applying that to the CDBG program. So let me scroll here. This is not what I want. Here we go. So the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, just a one-pager here so I can kind of run through this real quickly. The idea is to assist in assessment of projects presented for annual funding consideration. If you tracked what what staff and City Council have gone through the last number of years, we would come forward, probably 3 or 4 times, and Councilman Edmondson can confirm that. We come back forward 3 or 4 times to City Council in kind of a public meeting format and have a lot of open discussion about projects and programs each year with the annual action plan, which helps allocate our annual funding. That usually starts in kind of April, May timeframe and runs through to August with a recommendation for annual action plan that goes to HUD for their approval by October 1st, which matches up with our the city fiscal year. So with that, we decided to kind of take a step back and put more of that on a committee structure, let them hold some of those public meetings, and then come back with more of a kind of a consensus on projects and programs, kind of do all the vetting in a committee structure, and then come to the City Council, have a one shot at a public hearing, for example. We'd see that later in the summer. So we're looking to start this next month. We're looking at 7 members, 3 city councilmen, 1 from each district, planning commissioners we're discussing here, downtown review board members, since a lot of the projects programs affect downtown, same with the downtown live board member, as well as a park commissioner, since there are a lot of parks projects that you have seen occur with CDBG funds as well. The committee would select their own chair and vice chair like we do here. And there'd be some staff representatives from the 3 primary departments that utilize the CDBG funds, so community development, public works, and parks. So just run through the responsibilities, again, look at recommending these policies, goals, objectives to forward to the mayor and city council, evaluate performance of these activities, so do some review and kind of metrics, as it were, measuring how these things have been operating, particularly those programs. We have Mind Home Repair, first-time home buyers, and downtown facade improvement grant program. And again, they recommend a budget, so recommend that annual action plan each year to the mayor and city council, do some program reviews and get some comments from the public, and conduct public hearings, so we wouldn't have these at the city council 3-4 times each year. And then we'd have approximately 4 to 6 meetings. We may have a few more than that as we start, especially since this is a consolidated plan year. Have our 5-year plan sets the bigger goals and objectives of CDBG funding allocations. And so with that, Matt Wright is going to kind of oversee that from a staff perspective, just in terms of coordinating, and we'll have multiple, again, staff representatives and assistants to help kind of shepherd that through. So it's kind of a two-track approach this year, both the consolidated plan, the larger plan, as well as the annual action plan. So a little bit more work, a little bit more heavy lifting, as it were, for whoever is chosen here tonight. But it'll be a learning process for all of us as we go through this new committee structure, and look to have that again, probably the bulk of the work starting March, kind of going through August. So we won't necessarily be 2-3 meetings a month all year long. It could be a couple meetings over the next couple months, culminating in August. So.
And would those meetings be during the day, in the evening? Did you say, and I missed?
It depends. I would assume most likely during the day, but really does depend with 3 city councilmen and other kind of outside agencies in terms of Downtown Alive and such. We may look at possibly an early evening meeting, okay. Especially since we are looking at at some point holding some public hearings. We don't necessarily want to have those in the middle of the day.
Okay.
We'd be looking at kind of this time frame now and then.
All right,
that's all. Sorry, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman, for who might be interested in assisting us this year.
Anybody interested in filling that role?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question.
Sure, Commissioner Peel.
Before we proceed, have other members been selected yet from City Council, the Downtown Alive, and all the other organizations?
You are our trailblazers here this evening, so that has not occurred. As it shows here as well, I do want to mention it's a 3-year term. So we are hoping that there's some continuity that can continue for 3 years. That's not uncommon from some of the other committees that many of you serve on, but I know some of those we kind of reappoint each year, but you can see some familiar faces over 3+ years. So, but this one is right out of the gate a 3-year. We're looking for a 3-year obligation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody interested? Commissioner Peel, you're interested?
I'm interested.
Anybody else, or do we want to take him on it right now?
Oh, yield to whoever. I'm interested in that position. Thank you.
Would anybody like to move?
I would nominate Mr. Peel to take that position.
Second.
I have a nomination, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Peel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of business is other business. Our next meeting is Monday, March 14th, 2016. Everybody should have received a copy of the final 2015 annual report. If you didn't, I'm sure Mr. Wright has a copy for you. Any comments, Mr. Wright, to make on it? Any questions from anybody?
Looks good.
All right.
Looks great. Thank you for doing it.
Yes. Looks very
Good
good.
job on that again.
Mr. Allen and staff, excellent using the different colored pointers and all that.
Oh,
I was impressed that we had applicants who were assisting with that as well. So
you could use it.
It's good to know it's fairly intuitive. If you've used, again, you all have the iPads. If you're familiar with any of the touch screens and such, it's actually pretty easy to manipulate.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Mr. Allen, anything under other business?
No, sir. We do have a large agenda again coming up
Okay.
March 14th. A number of projects in terms of a lot of final plats related to some residential developments. And I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in. I don't have the whole agenda memorized yet. I don't know if Karen recalls, but or Matt, I think, has some as well.
We have signage for Starbucks. We have a conditional use for Asset Automotive.
Mm-hmm.
Colonial Highlands has a planned development concept plan, which is something new for us.
Right.
They also have a rezoning, and then we have several final plats.
So there'll be a couple of public hearings out of there as well. Okay.
So yes, a full agenda again as we had tonight.
All right. Any other business? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Haney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.